Hello everyone and welcome to the round 5 trade targets and preview live stream on the channel. Hopefully you're all doing okay. Long time no see. What are we? Less than 24 hours from doing the last stream to doing another one. The grind never stops. SuperCoach doesn't sleep. We've got to keep making the content, got to keep talking about the stuff and the topics because they just never end. TLT was pretty steady this week, nothing too crazy, but obviously a lot to get through this week, a lot of big trade dilemmas and questions that I'm sure a lot of you have out there. So we'll get into all of that today, but great to see so many of you already in the stream. I have informed household members that the microwave is banned, so hopefully it's a tech issue free stream, but great to see so many of you there. Congrats on the 1,000 points. Yeah, we've got to start there for sure. 1,024 points. Hold your applause, ladies and gents. Hold your applause. It's a huge score we've got last week. No, joking. But look, it was a green arrow. 44,000. We'll take it. Let's just keep hopefully making sensible trades, and we'll keep the green arrows coming. But hello to Benny G. As always, keen as mustard for this. Jake Young. Yep, that's right. Tonight on Oman vs Microwave. Sai, Alex Palmer, Michael, Ben, McGruff, Triple S, Mark Lawless, Moz as always, Matt Sherwood as always, Ange, Wazar, Jason Yang. Great to see so many of you in the chat already. Davey K, Brendan, Jasper. I'm so up in the air with the trades. Let the raid trades happen, boys. Yeah, absolutely. No, don't rage trade, but yeah, there's a lot of different trades that you could do this week. Lots of questions I'm sure people have tried to put as much content into the slides as possible. So keep calm, keep patient. Stick with me during the stream, and hopefully we'll get all of your burning questions answered throughout. I'm not sure, Siri must have thought I was talking to her. No, Siri, I was not. I was talking to the lovely SuperCoach community out there, not Siri. Sorry, mate. Unless you can tell me how to win SuperCoach. Don't need you right now. Hello, Aman. Thank you, Austin and Jacob. Great to see so many of you here. So, yeah, of course, 1,000 plus last week. I'm happy enough with that. The other thing I wanted to quickly update on was the league. Do join the overall league. Code is below me, 673281. Some prizes will be an offer, potentially a $100 discount with Swish to do the celebrity video shoutouts, which I know a lot of people do love. I've also got some other SuperCoach goodies to give away this season. So we're hitting round 5. I reckon I might give the first thing away, maybe not round 13, maybe even a little bit before that. Maybe like round 10 potentially. So yeah, get joining, and if you haven't until then, the league I think will automatically close after round 13 though. So just an FYI. But yeah, so shout out to everyone in the league already. Debbie, sitting at 20th in overall. Not bad. Can we swap places? YLY from Natalie, I think she's been there for a while as well, ranked 46. So we've got 2 people in the top 50, which is pretty stellar. But yeah, congrats to everyone who's so high up already. All these top 10 in our league are already in the top 1,000 as well. So very jealous of that position. In terms of TLT summary, I won't probably spend a heap of time on this. I've kind of tweeted this out already just after 4 o'clock, put on Instagram as well. A couple of things, no Joe Chan named for the Storm this week. I can see Sai has asked any reason why he hasn't been named. The only reason I can think, we haven't actually got any status on this, but I'd have to think it's this hand infection. That was the original reason why he was out. I think it was in round 3. I believe it was in round 3. I would have to think it's just that. Sean Bloor has been named to start, so hopefully it's not just he's lost his place, but hopefully we get some concrete news. We don't have it yet. So again, he's bottom dollar. I probably won't be looking to just sell Joe Chan. Hopefully he comes back into this team. But the concern is that you've got Sean Bloor now starting. He could make a good showcase of himself and just stay there. But another headache in 2RF, because I think a lot of people probably like myself have got a couple of underperforming guys in 2RF who we might want to get rid of. Another person who people are looking at buying this week, no Xavier Willison. Brendan Takura debuts in his place. I think this is not a selection based on form. It's an injury one. So I can't remember the Twitter account that posted it, but I retweeted it. But he basically suffered a head knock in training, which is why he wasn't named. So if anyone was looking to do Sam Hughes to Willison, don't need to do that now. Sam Hughes has also been named to start, with Curtis Morin suspended and Preston out as well. So I think Sam Hughes, if you had to play him this week, he's an option, but it shouldn't hopefully be as bad of an AE nightmare this week. What else? We've got Curran starting on the edge for the Bulldogs. Is great for the next few weeks, so I think he's going to be firming up as a great trade at your second row forward. Potential for attacking stats is increased as well. with the Roosters, Angus Crichton has been able to start, Tilly Tupanor on the bench. I'm personally not looking really at Angus. I know he's really cheap, but just the second or forward rotation at the Roosters seems to be happening too much, so I kind of want to wait and see. Interestingly, for the Knights, Jaden Brayley been able to start. Gamble has been dropped. Jackson Hastings has been named back in the team, so he's playing alongside Jack Cogger. That makes me think that that's going to be better for Ponga. I know Michael earlier in the chat was saying Jackson Hastings is back. Isn't that what ruined KP? He probably ruined him a little bit, but I do think Gamble originally was one that most people were thinking should be removed. But yeah, so I still think, even though the Knights attack hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, Ponga himself has been good. 100 plus last week away to the Warriors. So I think I'm not too concerned with Ponga. I think they're going to slowly build into it. And as we'll get into later, Knights have got a really good run coming up as well. Big one for the Warriors. Chance Nickel-Klugstad is back as well. Back at fullback. I think, we'll talk about centre wings later, premium centre wings, people who are looking for a pod in your centre wing. DWZ, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, I think he could really profit. I think the Warriors have probably got the best run over the next 4 weeks in terms of opponents. So if you're looking for a pod centre wing, DWZ with CNK back, all the abbreviations, Tamara Martin, SJ, CNK, DWZ, RTS, whatever. They're all there at the Warriors. They're all back. I think that would be big for DWZ. So I like him as a pod trade-in. Obviously, that means with Tane Tuapiki not been named, I think he's probably going to be a sell. But luckily this week you've got Blaze Talangi named to start. Very easy downgrade option, I think, for you in your centre wing. The other one is probably Liam Henry. He's been named on the bench again, of course, but James Fisher-Harris is back. So I think Henry's going to scale back a little bit in terms of his minutes. The 2 weeks that Fisher-Harris has been out, Henry's played 42 and 39 minutes. The 2 weeks when James Fisher-Harris was playing, 34 and 30 minutes. So I feel like we're going to go back to that 34, 30 minute type role for Liam Henry. So, someone asked a question already here from Tyler, start Liam Henry or Hughes, Sam Hughes that is. Still battling with that myself, if I'm being honest. I still think Liam Henry's probably, I don't know about safer, but it probably is safer. Like, even if he plays 35 minutes, he's probably more likely to get you 40 points. Hughes, even though he's been able to start, the minutes still could be up in the air. So I think at the moment, I'd probably still just about lean playing Liam Henry ahead. So that's kind of a big wrap up, I guess, of TLT. Not too many major surprises or shock inclusions. Cam Munster is a big in as well for the Storm, who do also have a nice run themselves. Nathan Pup, 1991 with a $7.99 donation. That is really, really generous. Really appreciate that. You've just got me 2 coffees, Nathan. I appreciate that so much. I'm gonna enjoy the coffees on your shout tomorrow. Love your work, Aman. Trading Ponga back in this week. Have to sell one of my guns to do so. It's between Talan May, Val Holmes, RTS, and Mulatalo. Thinking May ? So this is the big topic, of course. Kalen Ponga. Which centre wings do you sell? So I think we might actually just start there, to be honest. I think we've kind of wrapped up. Well, actually, before we start there, so I will get back to your question for sure, Nathan. But I did want to do something not quite player specific, a bit more team oriented, just to kickstart this particular stream. Also, just to make it a little bit different from yesterday's stream, knowing I just streamed yesterday. Where am I getting coffees for $4 in Sydney? There's a few good places. There's a really good one near Martin Place, which between 2 to 3 does a happy hour where it's $1 off coffee. So you can get a nice flat white for $3.50. It's all the ins and outs. These are all the little ins and outs you need to know when you live in Sydney and everything is grossly expensive. But back to SuperCoach. But very relevant question, Gazraki. Of course, caffeine, at least for myself, very, very important to function. So I want to talk about teams to target and also specific positions that you can look to target against particular teams. So I think, we're 5 weeks in, or we've had 4 weeks of data now for the season. I think we're starting to build up a good sample size of which are the teams to target, who are the teams that have improved defensively, whatnot. And so I think I pulled some NRL SuperCoach Stats, which is, of course, a fantastic resource. Definitely recommend diving into there and going through all of their stuff. But really, really useful is to see how many times have teams conceded a certain number of points based on different tiers. So what you've got in front of me, you can see how many points teams have conceded to, over 100 points. How many times have they conceded between 80 to 100, 60 to 80, you get the idea. And then they've also got a separate column, which is grouping over 80 in total, because that's generally what you want for a safe captaincy. So immediately what stands out, Gold Coast Titans have conceded the most over 80 point scores so far this year. They've also conceded the most 100 plus point scores. And if you've been watching, you obviously can see this already with your eyes, but the Titans are not looking good, conceding a lot of points. They're probably the number one team to target, in my opinion. After that, I've kind of identified a few other teams on my target list, and I'm going to be referencing this throughout the stream as well. So, if you're looking to trade in players, you're looking to assess difficulty of draw, I've got my own color coding, which I haven't yet updated for the graphics in the stream, but this target list is kind of what I'm looking at a little bit more. Tommy, yes, we do have a secondary forward section, so don't you worry, we'll be definitely going into that. But yeah, so Titans definitely the number one team to target. I've got Dragons second at the moment, which may be a little bit unfair. They can be hot and cold, and this is kind of what I'm betting on, is that they can be a very hot and cold team who can concede a lot of points. So I know they just beat Manly, but they've conceded 8 scores over 80, and they've conceded, to be fair, they've only conceded 2 over 100, but fair few scores over 80, so they're a pretty safe opponent to target. Funnily enough, the Rabbitohs, they've also only conceded 2 scores over 100, but they've conceded 10 in total over 80. So again, a safe captaincy option against the Rabbitohs, they're not looking their best and can be got at, I think, at the moment for your attacking players. If you're looking at probably more over 100-point scores, Bulldogs and the Dolphins are still up there. I know the Dolphins have been good. While they're good in attack, they still can leak points as well. So Dolphins have conceded 4 scores over 100, and the Bulldogs also the same, 4 scores over 100. So again, these are the 2 teams I think I would add to my target list. Funnily enough, the Broncos actually have also conceded 4 scores over 100, but I'm not really putting them on my target list. One, because I think they've had a pretty tough start to the season, so they have been versing better opposition. And secondly, they've also had in-game injuries that have kind of stuffed them around, and I think they're still going to be improving. So Broncos I'm not really looking at yet as a team to target, despite what the numbers currently say. So that's kind of one thing I'm looking at, is a target list for my trade-ins and also the guys who I'm looking to hold this week in my team. In terms of positional, what positions benefit the most against certain teams, you can see here the Gold Coast Titans, apart from 5/8, every position is pretty much excelling at scoring against the Titans. People like the Warriors, one that stands out, very, very good defensively, but they have conceded points to fullbacks. We saw KP score 100 plus just last week. So again, people, like Nathan's question about selling someone like he didn't mention Latrell, but I'm tossing up selling Latrell. He's got the Warriors this week. Could he actually still score well this week? These are kind of the things you need to maybe factor into your thinking with your trades. As you see here, Rabbitohs, they've conceded the most point to opposition halfbacks and the most in terms of a ranking to fullbacks as well. So again, team that you can target with your spine players and your halves and your fullback. So a few interesting things there. Penrith are just being Penrith, conceding very little to their pretty much all backline players. Roosters as well have been pretty good defensively. So again, these are the teams I'm looking to not target. Probably the most interesting one I think is the West Tigers. I'm seeing a few people in the stream chat already saying TBN Daily, thinking of bringing Hammer for May. Worth it, or is it too late for Hammer? Just after that, SC Camel says, is Hammer a must? Hammer obviously scored really big last week. He's got the West Tigers this week. But as we can see on screen, sure, they've played one game less. But I think we can see with the eye test that the West Tigers have improved defensively. They were pretty good defensively on their own goal line against Parramatta Eels last week, and they only conceded 6 points to the Sharks. I know the Tigers, for the last few years have been a very poor team, but now, just after a few weeks, they're already looking much better, and I'm thinking, are they actually a team that I fully want to be targeting? Which is making me think that Hammer is not an absolute must this week. I know he's much more expensive, but I look at Val Holmes in my center, not in my center wing, and he's a guy who I'm just like, God, I need to own Val Holmes this week if I can, because he's got a 42 break even. He can go 100 plus of that this week, and then you could never get him again potentially with his price. So these are kind of things that I'm thinking about with my own particular trade-ins this week. So that's something I wanted to mention. But yeah, we'll get into the rest of the positional players at the moment. Roosters 117, $8 donation. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Hey man, I don't get to catch the live streams often, but I love the content. Thank you very much. Any super pods that you have your eye on? So I kind of already mentioned one, I think already just earlier. DWZ, I think he's 725k. I've got more stats on him a little bit later, but I'm just going to, for your benefit, because you've given a super chat, I will quickly just have a look at his ownership, but I must think he's on very low ownership. He's 3% owned. And if we want to talk about runs, Rabbitohs this week, I've said they're a team to target. And then you've got Manly, and then you've got the Dragons, and then Titans. So in the next 4 weeks, they've got 3 of my teams who I've got on my target list. DWZ, I think, is a great super pod. His other teammate, Jackson Ford, again, same reason, really, really good run. He's passing my eye test as well. He's not cheap, but he's only 1% owned. Like, I think super pods, if you want super pods, again, I look at what are the teams you want to be targeting to take advantage. Warriors stand out for sure because of their really good run coming up. Melbourne Storm as well, someone like an Eli Katoa, I really like him as well. So that's kind of how I'd be identifying my super pods. Katoa's 2% owned at the moment. But yeah, those are kind of how I'd be breaking up my idea of super pods. Yeah, that is right. Sullivan at 6 is exposable for Hamaso. All right, so I think I'll probably go back to try to answer Nathan's question now, given that he asked that a few minutes ago. But it was about trying to trade in Ponga back in this week. I might just tackle that part of the question first. You know, people are probably looking at who are the fullbacks that you want to be targeting now. People are thinking about, do you sell Tom Trbojevic now? Do you sell the likes of a Trell to get back to Ponga? You know, if you've got Teddy but you don't have Ponga, do you sell Teddy to Ponga? Do you get Pappy in this week? He's got a -6 break even. Is Gutherson now an option because he's goal kicking? Like all of this stuff. So fullback is definitely a hot topic. And as Moz says, as if you're on a super pod, CNK could actually, I haven't got him on the list here. We obviously haven't seen him play. I probably wouldn't go as far as CNK just because he's coming from a hamstring injury. That is an injury that does have a thing of, you know, a reoccurrence. You'd be filthy if you traded him in and then he got re-injured again. That's the only reason why I probably wouldn't also go CNK. I'd much prefer just going DWZ on the outside. So that's a lot of green for Ponga from Tommy. Yes. So I think outside of the Warriors, again, super pods, the Knights are a team who I think are very investable in the next kind of few weeks. So the Dragons this week, Bulldogs and Dolphins, 3 of their next 4 opponents, in my opinion, are the target list. And then they've also got the Titans in round 11. Granted, that's a fair few weeks away, but I look at ahead and I see with Ponga, Roosters and Warriors are his 2 toughest opponents in the next 7 weeks, and they're both at home. So Ponga, for me, of the fullbacks, if you are looking for a trade-in, I still am ranking him number 1. He's 830k, goal kicking, which is great. Really, really good draw coming up as well. There was some concerns about, you know, with Hastings back, is he going to be is he going to hinder Ponga? Like Mike was saying, that Hastings is a bit of a ball hog. Couldn't go back to Ponga because it's last week's points. I don't really buy into the whole it's chasing last week's points. I know we can be guilty of that, but it was 117 against a tough opponent in the Warriors. And I just think with this run coming up, I think when Ponga was at his best last season for Supercoach, it was with Hastings in the halves. So I don't personally subscribe to that Hastings is going to be the option to not do well for Ponga. So for me, Ponga is, I think, number 1 ranking for me in fullbacks. If you look at the other fullbacks who've got probably the best draw in terms of targeting, Drinkwater probably got the best matchup this week at home to the Gold Coast Titans. Does toughen up a little bit after that, but then he does come back to the Dolphins and then the Titans again in round 9 and round 10. Next after that, draw-wise, it's probably Pappenhausen. So Pappy does have Broncos, but it is at home. As we saw before, I don't have them on my target list, but they have conceded as many over 100-point scores as the Bulldogs and the Dolphins. So Pappy at home, I think, is perfectly fine. Does have a negative break even. And then he's got the Bulldogs. Then he's got the Rabbitohs in round 8. So again, his next 4 don't look too bad. And then he has the Titans in round 9. So I can't really fault Pappy either. If I had to rank Ponga and Pappy, actually, I gave a ranking yesterday on the fullbacks. I'd probably be changing it slightly. Ponga and Pappy, I think, are my first 2. Pappy, because of the negative break even, he's cheap. Really good draw. Ponga, I think, is still the standout, though, just because of the goal kicking. Next up, you probably do have someone like a Gutherson. I know draw-wise, people are thinking his draw was good. Looking into it a little bit more, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible. He does have a bye coming up in round 9, but he does have the Dolphins in round 7. I think his matchups are suitable. They're fine. The benefit is that he's goal kicking. So the only thing that's putting me off maybe Gutherson is, as a team, the Eels attack still doesn't quite look as good. I know he's going to be generally a good averaging player without Moses, but I don't know. I'm still looking at Ponga for sure above him. So yeah, I'm kind of putting Pappy a little bit above. Actually, you know what? Basically, this is the question. Gutherson's only 10k more than Pappy. doesn't have a negative break even, probably doesn't have as good of a run, but he's goal kicking. You know what? I'm still going to say Pappy. I know he's not goal kicking, but I think the Storm are getting a lot of their big guns back, like Munster. Really good draw coming up. No bye coming up as well in the next 7 weeks. I'm going to slightly edge Pappy above Gutherson, but I still rank Ponga number 1 above them all. But back to Nathan's question. You know, if you had to sell one of your guns between May, Holmes, RTS, Mulatalo, look, flat out, no way I'm selling Val Holmes if you own him. RTS the same. As we saw, Warriors have got a really good run. Holmes, I think everyone is trying to get to him. If you have him, you do not sell. So for use between Talan May and Mulatalo, as a pure option, I probably do prefer Mulatalo right now, but he's on a buy, and I'm personally actually okay with cashing in Mulatalo. He's got a highish break even in the 80s. The run afterwards for the Sharks is fine, but it's not amazing. And, you know, by going like Mulatalo to Ponga for less than 100k or just about 100k feels like a nice move. Talan May, you're going to have to find a lot of cash to do that. So I think for your balance of your money, I'd actually probably suggest going Mulatalo in your specific position. I'm actually very much leaning towards selling Mulatalo myself, just because it could enable me Val Holmes. Yeah, in terms of super pods, you know, Drinkwater is a bit of a pod as well. So yeah, fullbacks are a big question mark this week. But I think the biggest question is Tom Trbojevic. I'm going to have a quick look at the top 10 traded ins and outs, but I have a feeling he's going to be quite high up there. So just having a quick look-see at the website. No, he's not. So surprisingly, Turbo's not actually in the top 10 most traded out players currently. And I'll be honest, guys, I think it really comes down to your combinations as well. I do think that Turbo wouldn't be in my top 2 fullbacks right now. My top 2 is probably going to be Ponga and Pappy, or Ponga and Gutherson. Even then, someone like a Drinkwater or a Teddy could feature in there too. So I don't think Turbo's in my top 2 fullbacks. But he's already had a price drop. He's got a break-even of 89, which isn't super high. Penrith is obviously a very tough matchup at home. Then it's the Warriors. But again, this is a bit strange because I'm probably going to sell Latrell myself this week, who has a technically good matchup against the Warriors, who have conceded points to opposition fullbacks. But part of that is also because I just don't want to own Latrell anymore. He's got a higher break-even. Plus, he also has a buy coming up in round 7. I think we're going to have to sell him anyway. But I look at Turbo. I think if you can get past this week against Penrith, Turbo is someone who all of a sudden I think people may want to get back. Warriors, KP scored 100 plus. They're still somewhat conceding points to fullbacks. Then it's the Titans, who we've just been speaking about as the must team to target. Then it's Parramatta, Canberra at home, which I'm fine with. Then it's the Dolphins, Broncos. Like, I just don't think that run after Penrith is really all that bad. And I think we saw one poor game from Manly last week, but I think before that we've seen Manly do really well in attack. The points haven't quite come for Turbo, but it just feels like he's on the cusp of it, and he's only still averaging only a little bit less than someone like a Drinkwater at 73, whereas Turbo's averaging 69. So I think for me, I don't think Turbo is actually a sell, in my opinion, just because I think if you can just ride out this Penrith game, yes, he's going to drop in price a little bit, but I just look at the run. If we look at the draw from round 6 onwards, I think all of a sudden it looks much better. Warriors conceding points to fullbacks, Titans, etc. So personally, I'm not actually going to be selling Turbo. I think part of that is also I've got Latrell, who I feel much more comfortable selling. He's also got a higher break even than Turbo. So I think I'm probably just going to ride it out, I think, with Turbo. Some people are asking, do you boost Turbo to Gutherson? I know a few people who are doing that Turbo to Gutherson move. Thinking about it a bit more, I think if you're actually wanting to trade in a fullback, I'd actually go Pappenhausen instead. Negative break even, plus I think his run is probably a bit better than Gutherson's as well. So I'd Storm, I think, attack-wise, I've been more impressed with them, despite them having a tougher draw. So I think I'd actually prefer Pappy to Gutherson. Would I do Turbo to Pappy? Again, it's team dependent. Turbo to Pappy nets you like 80k. If that 80k gets you the money bank to get back to Cleary, all that other good stuff, then sure, I think it's fine. You can maybe get Turbo back in. But this is my thing, is that I think by round 6, round 7, I'm going to want Turbo back again. So I'm thinking, look, I've traded pretty heavily the last few weeks. I've been doing this whole fullback roulette. Didn't work out when I sold Ponga for Latrell. I don't really want to go through that again, if I'm being honest. And I think it'll be a tough week this week for sure. I will be probably copping a hit by keeping Turbo. But I think after that, it's a good run that I think I'm going to want him. So I probably won't be selling Turbo myself. Michael is saying Turbo / Trell / Gutherson are not scoring at 800k, so yes, sell. I get that. He's definitely not offering value. Averaging 69 at 777k is not what we paid up for. So I think with Turbo, if you can find other ways to make money in your team as a downgrade, then I think you try to hold on to him. But I get the sell. I know Drinkwater's got a good run, got a good game with Titans this week, but I think I'd probably I wouldn't trade Turbo to Drinky. If you're going to sell Turbo to anyone, in my opinion, it's probably going to be Ponga or Pappy, and at a stretch, Gutherson. I don't think I'd be selling him, though, for anyone else personally. So that's kind of my view on the whole Turbo situation. Anthony makes a good point on Pappy. He has 4 from his next 6 at Amy Park. Yep, that's definitely true. And I haven't actually at the moment got a trade scenario where I'm trading in Pappy, just because I think I'm going to prioritize Ponga. But yeah, I like Pappy as a shout as well. If I could only pick one of Turbo and Ponga, it would have to be Ponga. I think his goal kicking and I think his draw is just so much better, particularly in the next 4. But even after that, for me, it has to be KP. I think I'd be having over Turbo at this point in time. In terms of other fullbacks, if you want super pods, I know Dylan Edwards scored last week pretty well and goal kicking, but it's Manly and then a buy straight away. I just don't think I would go there at the moment with Edwards. Also, just a quick note on the graphic. So someone, I think it may have been Tommy, asked, is the color coding based on the difficulty of opponent for that specific position? It's not yet. I've just made this for my default draw difficulty. I just haven't had time yet to do the whole conditional formatting to change it. But just kind of, you can ignore the colors to an extent, and you can probably just refer back to maybe that target list that I had shown earlier in the stream. Just seeing if there's any other questions on fullback. So that's kind of my general thoughts on the whole Turbo situation. I think Gutherson's going to be good. I just don't think the draw is as good as maybe people think. I mean, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. Like Dolphins at home in round 7 is definitely a good game where you could captain him. But I like Pappy. I think I prefer his run a little bit. It's weird because the run of Broncos, Roosters, Rabbitohs doesn't look on paper as good. But as we saw before from the stats, these are teams that points can come. And he's playing them at home as well, which I think is a big thing. And then he's got the Titans in round 9. And I think anyone who's got Titans coming up in the next 6 weeks is someone that you can look to. Alex is saying Drinkwater to Ponga. There is no way I'd be. Look, we'll get to Zach Laybutt later because I know people are thinking about what to do with him. If you have anyone playing the Titans this week in the backs, you just don't sell. I think you can't sell them, in my opinion. So Drinkwater, I would not be selling to Ponga even this week. I think what you can do with Drinkwater, if you want to get Ponga in, keep Drinkwater for this week and next week, and then trade to Ponga in round 7 when he's got Bulldogs, Dolphins. And also, you're forgetting, I've got Reece Walsh not even on this list, but he's also potentially an option. The Broncos actually have a good run as well from round 6 onwards. So yeah, the fullback landscape is just absolutely stacked. It's very difficult to know. I think this is part of the game as well. You're probably just going to have to we can't get all of them. You're going to just have to make your bed with 2 of them and then just hope that the 2 you get perform the best. That's pretty much how it has to work. All right, so I think that's kind of it on the fullbacks in my opinion. I guess maybe a quick one on Teddy. If you own Teddy, I wouldn't be selling him to Ponga either. He's got the Bulldogs this week. I think you give him this week and then you maybe reassess at that point. Maybe you want to move him back to a Ponga, or maybe you want to go back to Turbo, etc. So I think Teddy, I'd probably be keeping myself, and you can look to reassess next week. Maybe sell to even a Pappenhausen as well. So I think that's it on the fullbacks. So there was some stuff before on centres on Talan May. We'll do that first, actually. Talan May, where is he? Here we go. So yeah, what are people doing with Talan May? So Ape Index early in the stream is saying May is still cheap. He's not a sell. On the other hand, Swift AU is saying who to sell for Talan May. So you can see that people are obviously very torn on this in terms of what to do. Talan May is definitely in the top 10 most traded out. Let's have a quick look. He is the second most traded out player currently. Tame to a peak, he's actually number 1, but that makes much more sense. So yeah, Talan May, is he a sell or not? So yesterday, I pretty much said I think he's a hold just because it's Penrith. But thinking about it a bit more today, 884k, of course. This is the problem, guys, when you try to pull all these stats at the last minute just before streaming. Of course, it had to be one. He's 448k. I can tell you now who that 884k player was. I think it was it. I don't actually know what. ignore that. I don't even know who I had before at 884k, but it definitely wasn't Talan May. Yep. Thanks, guys, for your Talan Cleary. It was Cleary. Thank you, Michael. Yes, it was Cleary's price, so I hadn't updated yet. So, would you sell Talan May? Yeah, look, if Talan May was 884k and he's averaging 44, yeah, you sell at that point. Did I just see current price at 823k? Oh god, have I stuffed that up too? Oh, you're kidding me. That was for feeder's price, actually. That was for feeder's price, guys. You can see I'm all over the shop. Anyway, we fixed it. You guys are on the ball. You're calling me out on everything. Just a poor man trying to pull like 10 slides together. What's going on? No, I'm joking. So, yeah, Talan May, look, I think there's no need to rush to sell him. Like, he's playing for Penrith, who we've seen as a big attacking team. Isaac Tungo's probably profited more just because of what's happened during games in the last few weeks. But I think at any point, it could flip and it could be the left-hand side of Penrith's attack who does profit. But I think there's definitely merit to still selling, though. I'm not going to say he's an absolutely not a sell. Because, again, it's Manly away this week. It's not the easiest matchup on paper. And I look at Talan May as like, on his good day, look, I mean, I could just be jinxing it, but on his good day, he maybe gets, an 85, 90 points, which is obviously annoying, but it's not going to absolutely kill you. Then you've got the bye in round 6. Then it's the West Tigers in round 7. I know it's Tigers, and we all think Tigers, can be leaky and whatnot, but we've seen recently that they have actually been fairly good defensively. So I don't hate selling if you have a view to maybe get him back in round 7 or round 8. Obviously, this is going to be, you're going to be burning extra trades to be doing it. I mean, I will say people have got bigger fires probably than Talan May. You've got probably the likes of Burbo, Smithies, Jamin Salmon. These guys would all be selling above Talan May. But if you have to make the money work by selling him, then I think it's fine because, he only plays one of the next 2. I know Tigers looks good on paper, but based on what we've seen, could they actually be a little bit improved defensively? Maybe you get him back in round 8. He's 448k with a 75 break even, so I don't think his price is going to change massively either. So we hoped with Talan May that he was going to be making a lot of money at his price. The first couple of weeks were good, 67 and a 53. Just hasn't quite happened, and it's really coincided with those weeks where the Panthers have been attacking other parts of the other parts of the opposition. Because last 2 weeks it's now a 30 and a 27. The base stats have also gone down, which is probably a little bit more of the concern. Because the first 2 weeks he had a base of 35 and 41. Now it's 26, 23. So the base stats going down isn't fantastic. The base power is going down, and if he's not getting any attack, then he's pretty much at value at a 448k price tag. So I think there's merit to sell. You obviously know it could backfire and he could punish you. But I think given the next few weeks, I think there's actually some merit in selling, and I may potentially just sell him myself, just more as a guy who I need to use to make money. If you sell him, look, if you're going to go down, it's probably Blaise Talangi, number 1 most traded in player. He's got a negative 55 break even. He looks like Dylan Brown and he plays like Dylan Brown, which is a lot of runs, good base, good work rate. So I think with a minus 55 break even and with Moses going to be out still for like 6 weeks, his base in the last 2 weeks, 32 each game. So he's a very safe, even potentially a safe play in your center wing as well. Parramatta's draw is fine. Talangi, I think you get him into your team this week if you can. You should have a few avenues. You should have someone like maybe a Jacob Gagai, a Jamin Salmon, maybe even Talan May. These are all guys that I think you can downgrade. Burbo, for example, is a very popular trade out this week, who I definitely think all very good trade outs for Talangi. So I don't really need to speak about Talangi too much more, I think. A few more other interesting options. People asked me about super pods earlier. Justin Olam. I never really have been a Olam believer from a Supercoach point of view. I mentioned it in yesterday's stream. His highest average in the last few seasons has been 56 at Melbourne. This season it's been a little bit different. So in the first 2 weeks that he's played, he has had a base average of 31. He's got 31 base in both games. So the base stats have been, I'd say, a little bit better than what he's had in the last couple of seasons. So in 2023, he had a base average of 26. So he's 5 points up currently. Granted, it's a small sample size. And then the year before that was 26. So the work rate looks to be a little bit up. What I like about Olam, potentially, if you do want to go him, I don't think he's a long-term option. Let me put it that way. But negative 40 break even. Tigers run is pretty good. Dolphins and the Tigers in the next 2. I think if you get Olam honestly, I think you look at him as a 2-week play. That's kind of how I would do it. So if you're struggling to make cash elsewhere in your team, you want to trade in a guy with a negative break even, I would just go Talan May. Not that I would go, but you could go Talan May to Olam, and you get a guy who's going to be going up in price. Just with Olam, obviously the thing with price changes that you just need to be wary of is that if he scores a little bit lower on this week, how much money he makes is going to be obviously capped. So let's say, for example, against the Dolphins, let's just give him a floor of 40 points. And let's say he just averages 40 points from this point onwards. So based on what I've got from NRL SuperCoach Stats, if he scores 40 this week and he scores 40 again in round 6, by round 7, when you probably want to trade him out when he versus Penrith, he would have made, just having a quick look at it here, 68 plus 14, what's that? He would have made 82k. So as a trade, again, if you look at the old adage of a trade should make you 100k, if he gets 40 in both games, he's getting close to it. Anything more, like let's say if you give him a 50, which is fair enough, these are pretty good games coming up, then he's going to be making you more than 100k. But it's kind of borderline, and I think a big miss for him will be Lockie Galvin. So Lockie Galvin is out for 2 weeks now. I think Galvin on that left-hand side has just been so good for the Tigers. I think Sullivan in there now instead of Galvin is going to hurt Olam. So that's one thing I would just factor in if you are looking to trade Olam. If I had to give you my honest gut opinion, I don't think it's going to last. I think he could be a guy who could be a frustrating. You trade him in, makes maybe 70, 80k, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's got Penrith and the Broncos. What have I done now? And then you might have to force to sell him. So I think while the negative break-even is very appealing, personally, I just don't think it's going to be there. I'm happy to, if I'm wrong and he kills it the next 2 weeks, and congrats, you've made obviously a lot of money out of it. But yeah, I'm kind of just thinking Olam for me personally is not who I would be looking to prioritize. I'd much prefer a boss stock, if I'm being honest. So he's 405k. He's got a negative 41 break even. I know a few people were thinking, is it too late to trade in boss stock? I don't think so, because West Tigers, obviously, granted it's not the easiest matchup from a defense point of view. If you want to buy into the Tigers' defensive record so far, it is the West Tigers and it is at home. Then it's the Broncos at Suncorp. I just think that's a game that the Dolphins will go up for, and you can at least, I have got more faith in Bostock getting bigger scores, which will make him more money. He is more attacking stat reliant, of course. He's got a base power average of 31 compared to a 44 from Olam. But I think with a negative 41 break even, you can play him this week. And the Dolphins still have a long-term good run compared to Olam, who's got tough games coming up straight away in round 7 and round 8. Doesn't really factor in, I think, for Bostock, who after that Broncos game is Parramatta, Knights, Cowboys, Manly, Tigers. These are all games I think you can easily see Bostock still scoring well. So I prefer him as an option to trade to if you're looking at one of these guys in the 400k with a negative break even. On Zach Labart, a few people were messaging me about him. I think if you've got him, you have to give him this week against the Titans and then reassess. He's got a 92 break even, so even if he scores a 50, he won't go down too much in price, but I think you've just got to take advantage of having a backline player playing against Titans, in my opinion. So Nick is saying on Talan May, when do you have the chance to get a Penrith backline player for that price point? Even Tyron Peachy got up to 600k after starting in the 200k range for the Penrith last year. Yeah, definitely agree. Talan May for sure is not a must. There's no way Talan May is a must sell, but I can see why people are looking to do it just to capitalize on the next few weeks. Because the work rate is down, which is a little bit concerning, but it's all situational. And I think the thing with Talan May is that he could be much better maybe when Cleary comes back into the team as well. So yeah, definitely not a must sell. Look, you are getting someone from the Panthers who is nice and cheap in the 400Ks, but at the moment he is scoring like someone who is in the 400K range. And ideally you'd want to be at this point of the season getting some value or getting some cash out of him. Yeah, good point here from Azaria Khan. I might actually just flick back to this. So according to the position points conceded chart earlier, so Manly have got a good defensive record at the moment against opposition centre wing. So you can see that here. They're actually 13th for conceding points, which is actually pretty good. Trying to think of who Manly have played so far this season and if any of the centres in particular have been good Supercoach people. So they played Rabbitohs in round 1, fair enough. The opposition centres, Richie Kennar did score a try. Then they reversed the Roosters. They did come up against a Joey Manu and a Joseph Suoli'i, so two pretty good options. Parramatta, they did verse Penasini and was it Morgan Harper? I can't even remember. And then the Dragons, obviously their centers, Moses Sully and Jack Bird, are not renowned Supercoach options. So I probably wouldn't read that much into it, or I wouldn't read as much into it, but they have had a couple of games where they've actually performed pretty well defensively, Manly. So again, if you want to use confirmation bias to sell Talan May, that could be one thing that you could also do as well. Okay, let me just quickly go back to my screen. Am I finally going to get... Who's Ledger? I don't know who Ledger is. Apologies, Gowie. Shifter Pod says, I'm a hold Talan May. Yep, that's perfectly reasonable. Is Sione Katoa a sell from Alex? Just quickly on Katoa. So obviously he's on a bye this week. Got a lowish break even at 39, but if you started with him, you've made a little bit of money. Look, the run after is not too bad with Rabbitohs, Cowboys, Canberra, Dragons, and then Melbourne. So you could definitely hold on to him, but look, if you need him as your cash cow to sell down to Talangi, I think that's perfectly fine as well. Turbo to Drinky Tool Pro, I kind of addressed it a little bit earlier. I personally probably wouldn't do Turbo to Drinky just because I think, unless you really want to play the fullback roulette, then I think you get Drinky this week who's got the best matchup, and then maybe you go straight back to Turbo. Hey man, love the regular uploads. Thanks so much. Having both halfback and 5/8 out this week before trades, that's a very common dilemma people have. Do you reckon Ethan Strange is an okay starting 5/8 for just this week and to prioritize other positions? So I can't even remember who the Raiders are versing this week, but I don't think it's a bad opponent. I think, are they versing Parramatta? It's Parramatta at home. I think Ethan Strange is perfectly fine to play. He scored 46 points last week. I think even if he gets a mid-30s hype, even if he gets a low 40s, you'd take that. So yeah, I think Strange is fine to play as an option for this 1 week. Turbo to Pappy is what Sai is saying. Yep, can definitely do that. All right, I've kind of already spoken a little bit about premium center wing, so I probably won't spend as much time, and then I do want to get onto second row forwards because I know a lot of people have got second row forward. Or Flegler, I think is what Gary means. In terms of the premium center wings, look, Val Holmes for me is still by far number one, home to the Titans this week. In terms of my target list for I've got next 9 for the center wings here, for example, but Val Holmes I've got as 4. The only one who matches him is DWZ. So DWZ does have probably a better short-term draw than Val Holmes, but I do think Val Holmes is a better option. You can clearly see I've forgotten to put in DWZ's base power average, but I can find that in a jiffy because NRL SuperCoach Stats is literally the best website out there. It's 45. There you go. 45 base power average for DWZ. So yeah, I think, again, Super Pods, DWZ would be the one who I'd be looking at. Also, apologies, I'm really very mean. Asher Wilkinson from very early in the stream became a member. Very much appreciate that. Asher, thank you so much. And also, Alex has gifted 10 memberships as well. Honestly, I don't know who in this stream chat does not yet have a membership. The way that these things get gifted every single stream, if you don't have them already, you probably just got to turn up. Just keep trying your luck. Keep coming to every stream. Nice little plug there. And then you're probably going to likely get one of these memberships. But yeah, big shout out to Alex. Very, very kind. Where's mine from Shifter Pod? Yeah, it's completely random, I think, so I don't even know how it works. But I'm sure someone else will probably do it the rate that these things happen. People were asking about Garrick a little bit early in the stream chat. I saw perfectly fine option this week. I take that back. Got Penrith this week, 57 break even. If you're going to spend up in your center wing, honestly, I'd actually choose DWZ at this point, just because I think his next 4 run is probably better than Garrick, although Garrick does have the Titans in round 7. But yeah, I think Garrick is actually he's a fine trade in this week because Penrith at home is obviously very tough, but then after that, I think you've got a pretty good run all the way up until the bye. So Garrick is fine as a bye, but personally, I'd probably just try to stretch up to Val Holmes, who I think is clear number 1. We spoke a little bit about Hamiso earlier in the stream. Of course, I haven't updated his average yet because I've just been trying to do too many updates in this thing right at the last minute. His average is 95, not 86.5. Dom Young also does not average 77. He averages a little bit less than that. Oh no, he does average 77. What am I talking about? Alex again. Alex Palmer gifted another 10. Mate, the Alexes are cooking. You are absolutely right, Moz. Very, very generous. And Benny, a member for 13 months. Very much appreciate it. You guys must have just decided 45 minutes in, it's time for the memberships to just get flown out of the place. So no, thank you so much to the 2 Alexes for their generosity. Is Hamaso a must-have this week? No, I don't think so. I feel like if you wanted Hammer, it was really last week versus the Titans. You could still get him now, but after West Tigers, the run isn't as good as what it was. So I think I'm personally probably not going to go to Hammer. So I think now it's probably the time maybe to pivot a little bit. I know he's been looking very, very good recently, and the Dolphins are looking good in attack. You can still jump on him for making money, -1 break even, but I think you probably, I don't know, my own personal feeling still is that I think I want to now maybe look to go someone a little bit different. Could be a Lomax. His run's probably not the best, but Lomax is pretty solid. Base power work rate of 48, or you go DWZ, as I said, who's got a pretty decent base power himself of 45 on average. And Moz now gives 5 memberships. That's 25 memberships just been gifted like that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Moz, as well. Big supporter of the channel. Very much appreciate it. Speaking of super pods, Jackson Ford. Yep, Jake, I did mention Jackson Ford earlier. We will get to him as well. Sell Ronaldo from Prodigy. Honestly, I am very tempted to sell Ronaldo because he could be a stepping stone to someone like Val Holmes for me this week, which is very, very tempting. How do I accept the gift? Honestly, apologies. I quite know. Maybe just have to ask Google or ask ChatGPT. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Who has done this? Oh, you can't have done this. All right. Gonna have to not pause the stream, but look at this account. Someone has made an account. He's a member. Thank you. Aman's hair. And he said, "My God, I am ridiculously handsome." You guys are too much. You guys are too kind. My hair, honestly, cannot wait until every live stream because it just knows that he's going to cook every single time he steps up for a stream because he knows he's just going to get compliment. Aman's hair, you have actually made my day because that's hilarious. No, I clicked on your username and it says put user in timeout. I don't want to be doing that. Definitely not. Yeah, that's. I think that is the GOAT username of this channel. Unbelievable areas. Give some love to Aman's hair in the chat, guys. Why not? So that's probably a little bit on the premium center wings. We obviously spent a lot of time talking about them last week. On the 2RF, so obviously a big thing coming into this week is the second row forward, and the likes of a Smithies, Bo Fermor, Ben Travojevic, now Satili Tupanua, you can probably add to the list who's now been benched. So I think one of the big questions coming into this week was if you had to sell one of Smithies or Burbo, which of the two would you be selling? Really, really tough. Like Smithies is 398k, Burbo's 311. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll be selling either of the two, but in terms of my own team, just because I might want to do other things, not necessarily saying they're holds, but if I was to sell one of the two, I was thinking about it, I think I'd sell Smithies. A couple of reasons for that. One, he's more expensive, so you can just get more money out of selling Smithies. The second thing I think is that both of their break-evens are still manageable, 37, 36, but Smithies just has no attack in him, really. His work rate is better than Burbo. At the moment, he is getting more minutes than Burbo. Burbo did play only 49 minutes, but I kind of think, I just don't really know what's happening with Burbo, and at least Burbo's got dual. So even if Burbo loses money, at least even if he eventually just drops out of the team, Burbo can be handy with the dual. Smithies just feels like he's going to get you low 40s, and that's it. Burbo, at least in his time on the field last week, 49 minutes, he did score 36. So his work rate was still kind of there. So it's not great. Obviously, neither of them are fantastic. If you could get rid of both this week, then I think perfectly fine. But I just feel like who's going to offer still you value in your team? Probably Burbo, just for the sake of that he's dual and he's a bit cheaper. So you spend less money having to kind of upgrade him, and you make more money by downgrading Smithies. So that's the only rationale I could think of to sell Smithies ahead of Burbo. If you've got a Bo Fermor thrown into that mix, I'd probably keep him above the other two. One, mainly just because he's at least still playing 80 minutes. But I can understand the reason to sell Bo Fermor too, just because he obviously is more money. He's 457k, so you can get more money by selling him. Mine saying making your day is the least I can do. You make mine every day. Mate, you're too kind. I'm blushing. I'm actually blushing here. What's going on? It's a good thing I've got a white light, so you can't. It's not like you can't see the color come up very strong. Am I able to get Talangi in for Smithies? If you have the right duels, then yes, you can do that trade. If you can bring Smithies down to your center wing to make that trade. If you can't do that move particularly, like if you're looking at other second row forwards, I think someone else had asked it earlier, Smithies for Kai Pearce-Paul. Kai Pearce-Paul for me is probably around the same. Okay, look, he's not $441. It's $441K, just before people get excited. Yeah, for me, Kai Pearce-Paul, I'd say is probably my number one trade and target in your second row forward this week. Even more so probably than Curran. He's a little bit cheaper, and his draw is much better than Curran's. So I think work rate wise, he's kind of matching Curran. So in terms of a base power PPM, 0.99 for Curran, 0.77 for Kai Pearce-Paul. But Pearce-Paul is playing more minutes on the edge. Curran's work rate may go down a little bit, but he's been named on the edge too. Again, I prefer Kai Pearce-Paul as a trade to Curran this week. He's got the negative break even, better matchup this week, and over the next kind of 7 weeks, he's got the best draw, I think, out of a lot of these other second row forwards. If you already have Kai Pearce-Paul, as Shifter Pod says, I think Josh Curran is super solid, 507K. He's not going to make a heap of money, but look, playing on the edge, I think it's better for his attacking potential. He generally does still maintain a decent work rate playing on the edge. Very likely, I think, to get 80 minutes as well. So Curran's probably my next one after Kai Pearce-Paul, if you've already got Kai Pearce-Paul. After that, you're probably looking a bit cheaper at someone like Samuel Afainu, who I probably prefer now a little bit to Finifuyaki. Finifuyaki is more attacking stat reliant, at least with Samuel Afainu. Seems as though Benji likes him. He uses him for at least 38 to 40 minutes, and in that time, he's actually quite good. Good work rate with a base power PPM of 0.89, which is, if you look at this list here, it's actually the highest, only behind Josh Curran. So Samuel Afainu is probably my option as a downgrade, although that particular move only makes you about 50k. If you're going to spend up a little bit more in your second row forward, if you are freeing up money, a few of the super pods, Jake mentioned it earlier, Jackson Ford, I really like Jackson Ford, to be honest, as a pod trade-in. 641k, really good run coming up for the Knights. Playing the 80 minutes as well. I think he's getting a lot of the attacking stats as well. So decent work rate as well, 0.72 base power PPM. He based like 61 last week as well. So he's getting it done, not just also from the attacking stats. Like, he's actually got a good work rate behind it as well. So, sorry, he had 54 in base last week, but the week before that was 61. So in his three of his first 4 games, he's based 51, 61, and 54. Super solid. So it looks like you're going to get like at least a low 50 score from him. Really good run coming up. I think the potential for attacking stats is definitely there. So I really like Jackson Ford as a pod, really big super pod as well. And he gets used a lot in the attack by the Kiwi, by the Warriors, as Nick actually mentions here as well in the chat. If you want around a similar price to him, Eli Katoa, really good run coming out from Melbourne, I think long term as well. 653k. His base power work rate hasn't been as good as Jackson Ford. He's a little bit more expensive as well, so he's probably a little bit more of a, I think more people are going to be trading in Jackson Ford than Eli Katoa, but if you want to go against the grain, he's also an option you can consider. And of course you do have Hamoli Olukwatu at 688k. I think Olukwatu's about 12% owned, so he's not a huge pod, but after Penrith this week, the run is pretty good as well. So I think if I had to rank those 3 kind of 600k guys, Hamoli, Katoa, Ford, I'd probably have Ford above Katoa. And I think if I'm looking at a trade-in this week for sure, I'd probably rank Ford above Olukwatu. So I think this week as a trade-in, I'd prefer Ford, Hamoli, and then Katoa. From next week onwards, I'd probably reverse it and go instead Hamoli, Ford, Katoa. I think if you really just want to lock in this guy long term, I think Olukwatu is the best long term. But again, if you want to play a little bit different, go with a pod, maybe target the next 4 weeks in particular, then for me it is going to be Jackson Ford. So again, these are the few things probably just to consider. A couple of people asking about Sean Lane. The only reason I haven't got Sean Lane on this list here is that I assume most people probably already own him. So I just haven't got him here on the list, but you could consider Sean Lane potentially as a trade-in as well. But I think, honestly, I'd actually prefer Kai Pearce-Paul over Sean Lane around the same price, just with the run that he's got coming up as well. Couple of questions. Is Tupanua a sell? Yeah, Jason, I think Tupanua is also a sell as well. Named on the bench. He already didn't have a good work rate. He did score a try last week, which did bail him a little bit in his score. He scored 49 at the end. But he's 421k. Like, his break-even's not super low. It's super high, I should say. It's only 35. But like, if I'm a non-Kai Pearce-Paul owner, it's 20k to get to him. I'd just be making that move, I think. Because just coming off the bench is just not ideal. Should I keep Turbo? Luca, towards the beginning of the stream, we did talk about Turbo quite a bit in detail, so I'll probably just skip over that question just because we covered it in quite a bit of detail. Is Piakura a sell to Kai Pearce-Paul, or should I sell Smithies or Fermor? Stephen, I think I'd be selling Piakura. He's still out for the next 3 weeks. I think you just prioritize selling the injured guy in that situation. Thoughts on Dave Fafita this week? So, yes, I think Fafita, if you want to go absolutely pod, no one is getting in Fafita this week. He's probably the guy that you get. The only issue is that he's still been named on the bench. If you can wait until final team lists, if he's been named to start, maybe you can take a chance on him. But if he's still named on the bench, I just don't think you go there just with a 832k price tag. Like, if that's like, again, 832k, Val Holmes is 4k less. Of course, we're talking about different positions, but if you've got that ability where you're spending that much money on a player in this week, I'd rather get someone like Val Holmes instead of Fafita. That's the only thing. And look, Fafita could be an option very, very soon. But I think, unfortunately, I feel like Fafita is going to go a little bit on the wayside, just with people trying to get back in. Someone like a Cleary, people are going to try to get Val Holmes, maybe Garrick when he has a Titans. I think the money is going to be more focused on the centers and the halves and the fullbacks than the second or forward, the way that things are looking at the moment. Aman's hair, how do I look? You've taken a screenshot of my forehead. Unbelievable scenes. You look great, of course. Where did Joe Chan disappear? It just seems as though he's still got this prolonged hand infection, but we have no confirmation of that. That's just purely a guess. Alrighty, so what haven't we covered yet? We've covered fullbacks. We haven't really spoken about the halves yet in much detail, and we've got front row forward and captaincy still to go. So in terms of the halves, I think if you, like, again, some people are owning Hines and Cleary. I think if you're going to sell one of Hines or Cleary this week, it would probably be Cleary. Just, again, I'd take the guy who's injured, but I feel like if you've now got both of Hines and Cleary, actually, you know what? Do I take it back? No, actually, you know what? I take it back. If you have Hines, Cleary, and if you're definitely going to sell one of the two, I know Hines scored 94, but I'd actually personally just sell Hines instead. He's got the bye this week. You want the player in this week. And if you're getting anyone, for me, the preferred option is SJ. I will admit that the prices and things are not fully updated yet for the halfbacks. It's been obviously a crazy less than 24 hours trying to pull all these numbers, and we only got TLT at 4 o'clock because SJ is 662k, not 716k, and his average is also 54. The other option is maybe the other one who I've got here who priced incorrectly, I think, is Sam Walker. He's 516k. But SJ for me is the one who I'd be targeting just with that run coming up in the next 4 weeks. Don't mind a Hines to SJ. Alex is asking about Luke Brooks to SJ. Is that a good trade or is that sideways? No, honestly, I don't think it's sideways. I would definitely prefer SJ to Luke Brooks, who I really regret now as a trade, and I kind of just wish now I just held Cleary for the week and reassessed. Honestly, yeah, but I think SJ can capitalize very much so in the next few weeks with CNK back, goal kicking, really good run. 286 people viewing. That is insane. I've never had numbers like that before, guys. That really, really do appreciate it. Do give the stream a like, please, if you are enjoying it as well. That really just helps me get on the algorithm better. Gets the word out. People get to see this hair more. If you want to help me out in that way, then like the stream, hopefully. Jerome Hughes is probably the next up option with a good run coming back, but I do think with maybe Munster back as well, maybe there's too many cooks in the kitchen and maybe his output does reduce a little bit. So SJ for sure at a cheaper price, I definitely prefer him to Jerome Hughes. Michael's saying you want the player in. Cleary has the bye next round, so you keep Hines then. Yeah, look, it really depends. I think it depends on which of Hines Cleary would you rather have long term. That's the one I think that you just keep, because obviously you're going to be trying to do other trades and there's a risk that maybe you don't get this guy back in. So I think you just sell the guy who you're more happy to lose longer term if you can't get them back. That's probably how I'd argue it. Out of the two, again, let's just even look up to round 10, not even round 12. In terms of the number of games against teams to target, Penrith and the Sharks are the same. But I do think once Cleary is back, I'd definitely want him over Hines. So I'd probably just lean towards selling Hines at that point. Toby, welcome to being a member. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And yeah, as Jared says, just going to eat the auto emergency. And this has probably helped with Sam Hughes being named to start. Your auto emergency is probably not going to be as bad as it was, or as you thought last week. So I think it's perfectly fine to actually just hold Hines and Cleary this week. But SJ would be the one who I think, if you want to go for a short-term player who I think can score very well. All right. That's probably on that one. Quickly on the front row forward, because I know some people are looking there. A couple of people are asking about Josh Kerr as a sell, just because he only played 26 minutes last week. That is definitely a concern, that he only played lower minutes. He did score well, but he did score a try and a line break, I think, in that time. 26 minutes, I don't know if you necessarily sell this week. Like, he's got a low break even at 13. He should make some money. I think give it a week, see what happens again with the minutes. And if it does look like he is playing 26 minutes again, then fine. I think at that point you sell, but don't need to rush into that particular move. If you are hunting for a front row forward, Flegler is probably the one. He's actually the highest averaging front row forward this season, if you wanted some SuperCoach trivia for you. So if you just go on the SuperCoach webpage and if you filter for front row forward, and if you look at who is the highest averaging, Thomas Flegler, averaging 69 points. Nice. Yeah, unbelievable scenes. Hindsight regret not starting with him, but he's probably the one who I would get as a higher price guy. Averaging 51 minutes, 56 base power, which is super solid. And he's showing that ability to get attack as well. So he's probably the one who I'd be prioritizing. If you want to go a little bit cheaper as a pod, Jamin Jolliffe, 473k. He's going to be very meat and potatoes. Break even at 25. He's averaging 38 minutes, but that probably will increase because of the injury to Tino. So again, if we just quickly look at Jamin Jolliffe. So in the games when Tino was fit, he played 21 minutes. But since then, he's played 47 and 45 minutes. That looks to be more likely his role. And in those two games, he scored 51 and 63. So solid option. Did score a try last week, but base-wise, 49, 44. Look, he seems like a very no-frills option. One who I haven't actually got pulled together here, but I know has got some interest, is Stefano Oitkamanu. He's 500 at 11k. He's scored 44, 67, and 55. Again, feels very meat and potatoes. I personally want to go there just with the price. I would just pay the 20k extra and get someone like a Flegler, in my opinion. What's happened to Spencer Leniu? He's been suspended for a long time, and I still own him. But I guess the general message with front row forward probably is that I wouldn't prioritize too many trades there. I think there's so many other positions that are higher upside that I think I'd be looking at that as my prioritization of trades instead. Hair looking immaculate, of course. Thank you so much, Toby, for the kind words. We've already pushed an hour, so we'll quickly get onto captaincy, my team, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. But I will hopefully be able to do a dedicated countdown Q&A stream this Thursday as well. So if there's any questions I can't get today, hopefully we should be able to get to it on Thursday. We've had 300 viewers. Sorry guys, I'm just going to take a moment here. Never had 300 viewers on a stream before, so that's that's a nice little achievement. I still remember the first time I was nervous about doing a stream, just because I was like, whoa, are people actually going to watch? Are people going to say anything? 301 of you watching. Unbelievable scenes. All right. In terms of round 5 captaincy, someone's asked it here. Azaria, Pappy for captaincy this week with Munster back as well at Amy Park. Pappy, I think for me, is probably a vice captaincy option just because he does play in the first game of the week. So Broncos at home, who have been conceding 5th most amount of points to the fullbacks. So Pappy, I think if you've got him as an option, I like him as a VC shout. If you're looking for a Roosters player who play, just having a quick look at it here. When did the Roosters play this week? I know Broncos Storm were first. So yeah, Roosters play Friday 6 p.m. at Accor Stadium. Again, Teddy's a VC shout, or you could go VC someone like Dom Young. I haven't got him on the list here, but Dom Young could be an option. I'm just going to very quickly flip to the position numbers. So Bulldogs have actually been pretty decent at conceding points to opposition centre wings. They're 11th. So based on that, it doesn't scream a matchup that maybe you can target with Dom Young, but of course that can always change. So I don't mind a VC on Dom Young. You could also go someone like Harry Grant as well. So that's been mentioned by Brendan. Look, you could go captaincy on Teddy, VC Grant. Again, obviously it's subject to who you've got, but personally, I do think that the best matchups to target this week are the Dragons and also the Titans. I kind of just feel with the Dragons, they've just won last week in a good win versus Manly. They're going to be up a little bit, and I just feel like with these teams, when they've had a good week, they're more likely to have a bad week again next week. And so I kind of look at Titans and Dragons as the two teams I want to target this week, which means it naturally leans towards Ponga and then a Cowboys player like Drinkwater or Val Holmes. So I think for me, if I do trade in Ponga this week, he's probably likely going to be my captain, and I'll probably just vice captain one of Harry Grant or Dom Young. If I end up trading in Val Holmes this week, who could be an option, I could go VC Ponga, captaincy Val Holmes. And people may have a loop option because if you've got Lockie Galvin, he's suspended, and Parramatta play the very last game of the round. So yes, Val Holmes, Drinkwater, big captaincy options. I think if I had Drinkwater and Ponga, I think I'd captain Drinkwater over Ponga. I would just have to take that matchup, I think, as it looks. So that's where I'd be prioritizing my captaincy, I think, this week. I'm not really looking at Turbo. He's got Penrith, even though it's at home. It's just Penrith. And then Dolphins, I know some people are looking at Hamiso. I know he scored very well the first few weeks, but just his base stats still... Well, to be fair, his base stats have actually been okay this season. But West Tigers don't look like they're going to be as fragile of a team defensively. So I still feel like Hamiso, I wouldn't trust him with the captaincy, but I definitely trust Val Holmes, Drinkwater, playing on like Sunday 4 o'clock at Townsville against Titans. Just screams points. And a bit of a pot option is Gutherson, but it's away to the Raiders, who have been good, so I probably don't have as much conviction about that one. VC Kaipi's Paul, yeah, you could definitely do that as well. Probably going to be a bit of a lower ceiling guy, like he's been scoring about 65. If he gets a line break try, that could push to 100, but even then still, would you be taking a loop on 100? Probably not. So I probably would steer away from doing a VC Kaipi's Paul myself. But yeah, I think if you've got any option to put some, I'd put definitely something on Val Holmes if you have him this week. He'd probably be my captain. I'd probably just VC Ponga if you've got that kind of combination. Shifter Pod is saying, I can trade in Val Holmes for Talan May. Should I do it? Yeah, I'd be doing that, to be honest. It would be, and yes, Jake, you make a good point here, and maybe another reason why to keep Turbo. It would be the most Sea Eagles thing ever to lose to the Dragons and then beat Penrith. It could happen. It could very easily happen. All right, so that's kind of all of the planned content for my slides. Let me just quickly show you guys my team, if I can get it up, because I need to get the right screen up. And let's see. Okay, I think you guys should be able to see my team currently as it stands. I will admit, look, I'm still not fully thinking about what trades I might be doing next week. Actually, a premium centre wing who I didn't even speak about, thank you for mentioning it, R2 Rusty. Jermaine Asako. I mean, didn't even score a try last week and he scored 100 plus, completely going under the radar. Again, we're talking about super pods. He's 783k though. He scored 106 and 80 in the last 2 weeks, which is very, very solid. He based 44 last week against Titans. Yeah, if you're looking to get him or Garrick this week, I mean, this week I definitely prefer Asako. Longer term though, I do think I still prefer Ruben Garrick. So yeah. So in terms of my team, what I'm looking to do, obviously I've got some issues. Hines is on the bye. I've got Luke Brooks versus Penrith, which is not ideal. I've got Turbo versus Penrith, who I won't be captaining. I haven't just changed things for my team yet. And I've got Mulatalo on the bye as well. So Mulatalo is an interesting one. Like, he's on the bye. He's actually been pretty good since I've got him the last 2 weeks. He has benefited from a lot of junk points, but he's been decent. It's a bit blurry. Okay, I might just try to zoom in a little bit. Maybe that helps you out. His break even is 83, and so I think he's look, Rabbitohs when he comes back is decent, but I do think he's kind of, in my head, somewhat peaked in price. So I'm kind of looking at him as potentially one who I sell this week, more just to capitalize on his money that he's made me. Since I've traded him in, he has made me more than 100k, so he's done the job that I was hoping for. So I could be trading Mulatalo this week. I think number one target this week is probably Blaze Talangi. So he's 200k. So if I just search for him, I think he scored about 45 points last week. You know what's going to be easier to search by break even. There we go. Because the thing is, the only other options I would have to sell Talan May, like I'm not selling Dom Young to RTS or Bostock. I could sell Jacob Gagai, but as you'll see with my other trades, I think I want to do that. Sell Mitchell. Yeah, look, I will be trading Latrell Mitchell, I think, this week. He's got a higher break even. I know the Warriors matchup looks good for him on paper for a fullback, but I can't not have Ponga, I think, this week. I think I need Ponga. I think I just want Ponga, to be honest. So I think Ponga is coming in for me. Sorry, I just have to crane my neck to see past my ring light. So Ponga's coming in, plenty of cash, 488k. That could be the two moves that I do this week. And if I did that, I would, to be honest, I think these moves are pretty locked in for myself. So a lot of money in the bank. And then I would definitely be captaining, in this current setup, I'd be captaining Ponga and maybe VC on Dom Young. But this is a question I do want to take as well from from Tyler. Is using the third boost okay? Honestly, I don't think it's an issue to boost 3 weeks or use your third boost. I think at this time in the season, it's all about trying to set up your team correctly for the run-in. Not for the run-in, but just to set up your team to get the right cash cows, get the guns in who are going up in value, all of that stuff. So I think absolutely fine to boost this week. So those are the first two moves which I think I'm likely to do. I haven't really spoken about deal bags this stream, but I know he's been a bit underwhelming, but I don't know. I just still don't see him as my biggest issue in my team personally. Although there's maybe some merit to sell deal bags for like Val Holmes. But yes, with that money in the bank, I don't have the deal to do it, which is very annoying. If I did, I would 100% with the money that I've got be selling Smithies to Val Holmes if I had the duels, but I don't. So I can't do that. I can sell Smithies to any secondary forward, so I can go like a Jackson Ford as a pod, blah, blah, blah. But as I said before, like Val Holmes to me is the one who I think I'm absolutely terrified of not owning this week. And also Titans, God, they're bad. And so I could do Talan May to Val Holmes and have 100k in the bank. I mean, objectively, Val Holmes is a better option than Talan May. I think we can agree on that. So it would be another boost. This would be my third boost in a row. It doesn't solve my issue of Burbo or Smithies, but oh God, it's just nice seeing Val Holmes in my team. And the thing with him is, he's very expensive. He's 829k, but he's got a break even of 42. His lowest score this season is 54. So I think it's fair to say that unless something crazy happens, he's going to make money this week. And to be fair, his record against the Titans is not the best. 31, 69, and 53. But it's a new year. Titans are bad. Let's go. Val Holmes is killing it. Then he's got Parramatta at Combank. Great game for attack. Sharks, fine. Penrith is tough, but it's at home. Then it's the Dolphins at home. Titans again. Rabbitohs. Tigers. I just look at him as long-term as like, I want him. I want him. So I could do this as my boost. And with 100k, the only thing I really need to plan for, I think, is I need to get back Cleary in by round 7 or round 8. And I think I'm keeping my options open I think deal bags could go to him via Luke Brooks, potentially if I have to. Smithies and Burbo obviously are not ideal, but their break-evens are 37 and 37. I think they won't lose a lot of money, I think, this week. I've already got Kai Paul. Front row forward is definitely an issue. Don't get me wrong. I know it's an issue. Joey Lussick is an issue too. I haven't even spoken about him all stream. But yeah, last week has not been great as a trade-in. But I just look at it as, again, the only option I could get to is like a Coruscant or maybe down to Levi, but God forbid, I don't think I can go back to Danny Levi. So I could just play one of Sam Hughes or Liam Henry again. Spencer Leniu survives for another week. Next week, I might need to maybe go someone at front row forward, but what I'm hoping for, fingers crossed, Josh Curran gets dual status round 6. I just sell Spencer Leniu, swap Curran up to my front row forward, and then I just get Spencer Leniu in. I just go to a cheap second row forward like Finafuyaki or whomever, but there's way more options I can go to at second row forward. So I think that's going to be my out at front row forward next week, praying to God that Curran gets a dual status. If he doesn't, then I don't know what I'll do at that point. But I'm kind of on tilt. I want Ponga. I want Val Holmes. I am selling Talan May in this situation, which isn't ideal, but I'm like, it's to get Val Holmes. God, getting Val Holmes is tempting. 3rd boost in a row. But you know what? Let's assume that I do the trade. Where can I hit confirm trade? Oh, here we go. Complete trade. Sorry guys, I know I'm spending a lot of time on my team, but hopefully you're finding it useful. So if I did that, refresh. Sorry, there you go. If I do that, I would probably be going. Okay, my app is stuffed up. It wants me to. It's looking at the trade out for every single player. That's not what I want to happen. Anyway, you get the idea of my potential trades. In that situation, I would VC Ponga, I would captain Val, and I could just use Lockie Galvin as a loop option, or I use Nico Hines. We've got options. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking at the moment for a boost. And look, I know it's using my 3rd boost, but I'm looking at it as like, I'm getting in Ponga versus the Dragons, I'm getting Val Holmes against the Titans, and I'm getting a minus 55 break-even cheapie. Like, these feel like fine moves to me. So anyway, that's my justification. I've spent way too much time. We're at 1 hour 17. I'll do 3 minutes of questions. We'll get to round 1 hour 20. And then I think we'll go from there. Instead of Ponga, I could go Pappenhausen, as Michael says here. I could get an extra 140k, and that could make it much easier to get back to Cleary. So I will play around with that as well. Maybe getting a Pappy instead. Because if I do that, then we're looking at, if I look on averages, we're looking at having 246k in the bank. That would definitely help me a lot in getting back, what's his name? Cleary. Because Cleary's 883k is very expensive. So I think if I don't go Ponga, it's probably Pappy just for that money saving. Or instead of Val Holmes, I go someone a bit more pod like DWZ. That's maybe the option. Anyway, to be decided. We'll confirm on Thursday. Get onto your questions now. Turbo to Ponga. Yeah, look, my car, we spent a lot of time talking about fullbacks earlier in the stream, but I think as a move, I think it's fine. I think Ponga I'd rank definitely above Turbo. Sell Burbo or Salmon for Talangi. So out of Burbo or Salmon, I would probably sell Burbo instead, just because at least like Salmon has been a bit of a plotter with mid-30s, but no Curtis Morin this week. Preston's out for a few weeks as well. I think potentially his minutes could improve in the middle, so he's also got the same dual status. So I would probably stick with Salmon just about over Burbo, but it's not ideal. Talan May to Holmes, Tuapiki to Blaze, Piakura to Finafuyaki. I like the first 2 moves. Finafuyaki, I'm not as enthralled about. He's just a tick over 300k. Could you afford Kai Piers-Paul? I think that would be a really good move if you've got the 20k prodigy kid. Piers-Paul for me feels like the one I would be going for. This feels like my home. I've got all my mates talking strictly league. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's great what we do in the community here. Let me change Pappy out for Ponga. If Aman goes for a 3rd boost, I will too. Honestly, Alex, I'm ranked 44k, so don't just do everything I do because it hasn't been paying off, but fingers crossed. Should I get KP and Holmes for Tommy Turbo and Talan May? So shift to pod, like Talan May for Holmes is a move that I could be doing potentially. And yeah, Turbo to KP, I can't fault it. I think Ponga is probably the number 1 fullback. Tupanua and Burbo out for Ford and Talangi. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Talan, I think, is a great trade in this week, and I like Jackson Ford as a nice little pod. Really good run coming up for the Warriors too. So, yeah, I like those moves, Peter. Laybot and May to Val Holmes and Blaze. Laybot and May. So, this is a weird one because they're in the same team, but objectively Val Holmes is a better option than Laybot. But you would just be kicking yourself if Laybot scored well this week too. So I think I'd personally just keep... you know what? I would actually probably lean to doing that, but only because you're getting Val, who's also playing the Titans. Anyone else, I probably would say no, don't do it. Thoughts on Carrigan? Yeah, Carrigan, I didn't really speak about. He's been very, very solid. More than solid. 74, 73, and 69 in the last few weeks. Similar to Isaiah, just meat and potatoes. But at 690k, I'd probably want to choose a guy who's got a little bit of an upside. Jackson Ford's gone 100 plus. We know Eli Katoa can go big. Olukwatu got 94 last week. I'd just rather pick one of those guys. Carrigan's a very safe, solid option. I just rather would, at that money, spend up a little bit more. I don't mind this idea from Michael as well, which is that you could go Pappy first just because he's got the negative break even and see how Hastings goes with Ponga, and then maybe you go back to Ponga in round 7. Again, don't mind that, but that does mean you're using extra trades. In terms of the number of trades I would have left, I would have 36 left. So we've been trading hard the last few weeks. I probably would need to start cooling off in the next few weeks. VC Paps or Teddy for the loop. I'd prefer Paps myself. Or Bulldogs away, but I still prefer Paps. Just playing at home against the Broncos, pretty strong Melbourne team. I think I'd actually lean Pappenhausen. Trusting Val Holmes to get 110 plus. Yeah, if I get him, I hope so. If I don't get him, please God, no. Aman, are you considering Jaden Campbell near future? Potentially, but I think I need to see a lot more out of the Titans to have faith in going for their picks apart from Dave Fafita, if I'm being honest. Is boosting worth it to go Mulatalo to Katoa via Salmon, or is that sideways? So I'm assuming Eli Katoa. It feels a little bit sideways because Katoa's good, but he's not like an absolute elite tier. For example, if I'm saying I'm boosting for Val Holmes, that feels a little bit different. That does feel a little bit sideways, Hamish, but I don't hate that move. But yeah, don't hate it, but I can see what you're saying. It feels a little bit sideways. I think personally, I probably wouldn't do that. I don't mind selling Mulatalo, but I'd probably try to target someone who you can, huge ceiling potential like Val. Hey man, who should I trade out for Cleary? If you're trading out Cleary this week, I think you've got to go SJ. Goal kicking, 3 of the next 4 I really like. So he's probably the one. Adam Finnell-Blake a hold if you have him. Probably. I know he's not been great, but if you've spent up and you've got Finnell-Blake, I think you just ride it out at this point. As I said, the run for the Warriors is really good. We know he can get attacking stats. I think you probably just hold faith, to be honest. This is a good point from Lachlan. Ponga captaincy may be risky in the wet. That's a good point. You may be getting me tempted to go Pappy instead of Ponga, but the weather in Newcastle is supposed to not be good. Even Sydney on Friday. 21 degrees and raining all day. Wind and rain. Ooh, could be a very wet and windy game. What's Melbourne weather like? Let's get some confirmation bias for Pappy potentially. Thursday in Melbourne, 19 degrees, and at 8 o'clock, 14 degrees and clear. Ooh, that's cold, but could be a bit of dew. Not as bad as Pong's weather though. Oh man, you guys make me umming and ahhing. Anyway, I think I'm probably going to wrap it up there, guys. We were going for almost an hour and a half. Got to eat dinner, and also need to likely we'll do a Q&A stream this Thursday as well for you guys. But we went through a lot this week. Hopefully you guys took some use out of it. Again, really appreciate it a lot. We got to the most viewers I've ever had on the stream, so really appreciate it. Do please give the stream a like on the way out as well. But as I said, hopefully get to more of your questions tomorrow and then on another stream on Thursday, hopefully. But yeah, otherwise, thank you all for tuning in and see you in the next one. Cheers.